Everyone I've talked to has these stories of their early diagnoses being so traumatic.
When I was diagnosed, the resource that I was given was, I know 2 psychologists that will help you deal with the depression that you're going to have.
I was given nothing.
So I left the doctor's office assuming that I would be dead within 5 years.
I was scared to death when I was first diagnosed.
When I tell people literally that he did all the reading and I did all the crying, I do not say that in jest.
It's abuse. It's trauma inducing. We have to change it.
You have to be willing to stand up and fight.
It gives me a purpose. I have a reason to have this disease, is to let other people know, get detected early.
How can we make these services more available to everybody, no matter what their abilities and where they live?
The people on the screen are all experts in this. This is a really good source of scientific information.
What you have to say potentially could make a huge impact what's down the road for other people. We're going to change the world, ladies.
I love that is the possibility.
Our needs analysis report is titled Transforming Life with Dementia, and it was driven by 65 individuals living with different types of dementia, who were all co-researchers and co-authors of this report. So we organized 10 focus groups based on interest and commonalities. These focus groups included the doctors group, a Black Dementia Minds group, a Latinx group, a men's group, a group of people living with young onset, as well as a group of people who identify as LGBTQIA+, and others. Participants ranged from age 47 to 92. They were living with mild cognitive impairment or various forms of dementia, such as Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, or frontal temporal dementia, and many other types of dementia. They had a lot to say in every aspect of our study, from selecting the topics to identifying the recommendations. Well, this may not seem like a radical approach. It's significant because people living with dementia are often excluded from the decision-making process.
I think oftentimes people living with dementia are told what's best for them. I think oftentimes if they're coming with like a care partner or caregiver, the physician or the clinician's talking to the caregiver and forgetting that there's a whole other person. It's their experience.
If you look at what a lot of folks say that are living with dementia, the way that they're treated after the diagnosis that's worse than actually getting the diagnosis. It's not always compassionless, but it is almost always lacking in support.
The biggest effect of this report is it will make people look and say, people with dementia are saying this.
The groundbreaking part I see, it's really the way the report is being written.
It's actually designed, developed, and produced by them. Not only giving us the foundation of areas that we need to pay attention to and do, but also are telling us that they can be part of the research team.
And one thing I love about the needs analysis, it was diverse by geography, by gender, by race, ethnicity, sexual preference. A lot of research doesn't have that kind of diversity.
When you look at who are participating in these research samples, we see that it's largely white populations. And so when we're making inferences about disease, when we're making inferences about interventions, it's excluding these other populations, and actually they're the ones that are at higher risk. We should be centering their lived experiences, centering their needs, because they're the ones who are being impacted by this and they know best.
So let me take you through the process. Each focus group had 3 meetings. And during our first meeting, we identified what resources participants received at the time of diagnosis to 1 year thereafter. I would like you to think back to the time you were diagnosed. Can you please describe what resources or information were provided to you at the time of your diagnosis?
I didn't get anything. I didn't get anything in writing.
No information, background, no pamphlet, no nothing.
As far as helping me to navigate the process, then no.
I was given, you have MCI. I'll see you next year.
All they told us was, you've got 5 to 7 years and we're not going to tell you anything about it. You just need to go home, get your affairs in order. She can't work anymore.
Did anybody offer any assistance with like any benefit sort of things that you might be eligible for?
No, ma'am.
Wow.
And since I was young, nobody even mentioned that you could get Social Security disability if you're diagnosed young.
If they had said, talk to your HR department, you know, if they had given me some kind of help, I would still be working.
Right.
But I was out of a job.
Just knowing the people here on this screen would have made a huge difference in the worst and darkest time of my entire life.
Just having somebody else that you can hug that has the same disease.
I was told by my physician to go live your life. Just go live your life. I didn't even have a glimmer of hope.
It's not rewarding. It's not supportive.
It's not respectful. It's not sensitive to what's going on with the person. It doesn't help them live well with what's going on.
It sucks.
The doors just seem to be shut at every corner.
Want to jump up and down and scream.
It was just crazy.
As you can imagine, the first meeting was a very emotional one. But when we met a week later, the group was all about action and the report started to take shape. What is it that you needed? What resources and information did you need from the point you were diagnosed during that first year afterwards?
Number one, a neurologist willing to spend more than 15 minutes with me.
Give me websites, give me something so that I can learn more about what I've got.
So I think it's real important to have a phone follow-up a week later.
One thing that would be helpful when you leave that office, for them to have really a checklist of all of those things and resources, numbers, sort of almost in order of what you need to do.
We never had a family appointment. I wish we had a family appointment because I was struggling and I was trying to educate them.
If only one resource was made available to me, I would want it to be a directory of others living with young onset Alzheimer's so we could connect, support, educate, and advocate together.
When I got the support and got connected with Dementia Minds and Black Dementia Minds, it's made a huge difference. You know, you feel like you're with your own, in which if you say or do something, that you'll be understood.
I think hearing people's stories for me has been the biggest place of hope. And so I feel like that's been a resource that's been really helpful for me, but hard to find.
Being a retired medic, you see different communities with illnesses have case managers. And I think that the neurologists need to have a case manager too, to kind of close the gaps between their medical management and getting the resources.
I mean, I ended up separately seeking out a therapist to help me with strategies to be able to live with myself with the limitations.
I would want to know more about lifestyle changes, supplements, other things I could do to slow the progression.
Just define what the different types of dementia are too, because beginning, a lot of us are in that kind of netherland of MCI.
So my recommendation is that upon presentation, a social worker or psychologist, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist, and a speech pathologist all be recruited to assess the patient.
I would have liked to have had a social worker. It would feel more respectful to have had someone say, okay, so let me guide you through the process of accepting this so that you can learn more about it.
Help to understanding my employer's benefits.
Instead of just telling someone they need to leave their job, I think they should spell out the correct way to leave, and as well as information about filing for SSDI.
To me, and everybody's really mentioned it, it's resources that are needed.
After meeting 2, my longtime colleague, John Williams, was responsible for compiling all the recommendations provided by the 10 focus groups and condensed them into one complete and final report.
With the third focus group, what we did is we reviewed those recommendations to make sure that it was precise and it reflected the voices of the participants. And if there was any problem whatsoever, they would let me know and we would edit it on the spot. So number one, for some newly diagnosed, basic information about their specific form of dementia. Number 5, doctors need to be more sensitive to the information provided by the patient.
100%.
100%.
Number 10, resources or information on government benefits such as Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security.
And can you please add life insurance?
Absolutely. So when we initially compiled the list of recommendations, we had 199 recommendations, which practically no one believed, including myself. And from there, we were able to condense them down to 131 recommendations. And how that was accomplished is most of the support groups shared recommendations as they all had a common experience. But also each support group had unique experiences that we were able to capture as well. What was amazing was the intelligence and the courage and the resilience. There's just something special about folks connecting and sharing their experiences that it just blew me away. It was a very different experience than I imagined, and I just left inspired.
When people hear the word dementia, they instantly go to late stage thinking. We're always spoken for or about. That's where the National Council of Dementia Minds comes in.
This research is absolutely essential for changing the diagnosis and care of people with dementia.
The current state of dementia in this country is terrible because it really is focused on deficits, on what people cannot do anymore. So there is not much focus on what people can still do.
Dementia is the most expensive disease category out there right now as far as the cost of care for people who live with a particular diagnosis. But so much of that, I think, is related to the way we approach people. We don't provide the supports people need to live successfully. We don't provide the types of therapies that can help people to improve or stabilize.
Most neurologists don't know the resources that are available in their own communities. At the very least, it wouldn't be hard for somebody in the office to come up with a, repository of available support. But I would suspect there are only a handful of clinics that even do that.
Unfortunately, currently there's no cure, but we do have things like diet, sleep, a number social stimulation, all of these things that we could really be emphasizing that do have an impact on your cognitive aging and your risk for dementia.
Dementia, you got to be creative. The pills don't work. You got to do something besides just have another pill. And that's where the people that are advocating for more creative approaches are so important. But right now their voices aren't being heard in any of the arenas where it counts. And when I read through the report, I thought, boy, this looks like a great national plan. And I was thinking, boy, if I said that, someone would say to me, but the US has a national plan. I say, yeah, and that shows how good it is because none of this stuff is in there right now.
I really would just want to be reform the healthcare system altogether. And I think that there just needs to be better systems in place. You're working with actual people and you need to make sure that they feel that and feel seen.
So where do we go from here?
We actually start by listening to people living with dementia.
We start by providing resources, education services, and support.
We start by educating the medical and research community.
We start by changing society's end-stage thinking.
We start by stopping stigma before it starts.
We start by reworking the medical system.
We start by being co-researchers, not just subjects.
We start by working together.
We start with this report.
We start now.
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 We start now.